Welcome, tennis fans, to Tennis Traverse, Exploring the Game, the podcast that delves into the heart of the tennis world. In today's episode, I'll be diving into the first week of Roland Garros. And before I start, you guys may notice that I didn't say which episode it is, since I figured that it will be in the title anyways, and I feel like it's just getting too much of a mouthful, like I'm saying it, it's kind of weird, so I'm just gonna do it when it's sort of a symbolizing or a significant episode, such as 50, 100, stuff like that. I'm not gonna say it every time now because I don't know, it's just a small change because I figured you guys already know what episode it is just from the title. And yeah, before we begin, please follow all of my social medias, that is Instagram and Twitter, using @TennisTraverse, that is @TennisTraverse. If you are listening on YouTube, comment, like, and subscribe. If you're listening on other streaming platforms, please rate my show. And I do want to say that I was checking the analytics the other day, and I found that a lot of you guys are actually listening. It's more than what it has been, so I'm really flattered. I thank you so much to all the new listeners. And for those who don't know, I have a newsletter that comes out every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and the newsletter basically is a preview of Monday's episode. And sometimes, for example, if you're subscribed, you get my whole draw preview for big tournaments, and you get to see stuff that I don't really talk about it on here because there's just so much things to talk about, especially during a Grand Slam. So just a random example, I had the whole French Open draw predicted out, and I had a whole key for the people who are subscribed to see my predictions, and they're so far so good, I think, except for one part which I will talk about later. And also, just to point out, please go follow my Twitter, guys. I'm trying to be as active as possible because obviously there's a big Grand Slam going on. I was really dead for the past a month or so, but because there is a Grand Slam, I figured I really can't talk everything in just 30 minutes. So I have that in my description, in my show notes. If you guys can't find it for some reason, there's also another link tree. So if you click on the link tree, you have all my links, including Instagram and Twitter, the Substack, and all that. And with all that said, let's just get right into today's episode. I want to talk with some overall things, and then I want to go into WTA and ATP, which is the women's and the men's side. But I want to say that the raining things is kind of interesting because it's raining for 5 days in a row, and I think it's a record because based on a forecast, it didn't say that it's going to rain, but it's literally raining every single day in Paris. And this usually isn't a huge deal, but because during Grand Slams, I've heard somewhere, and I'm pretty sure it's correct, which is that during the first round, the matches played in total is more than the other rounds added combined. So there is a lot of matches that is played in the first round, and because of this, it requires a lot of courts, so that a lot of matches have to be completed outside, not in the main courts where there isn't a roof. And because there isn't a roof, the players can't compete because it's raining, obviously. So the matches are just getting postponed, and because of this, a lot of matches are happening a lot later. We're getting postponed to the other day, to the next day, which is also raining. So it's just a whole basically chaotic thing going on. But the good thing is, I think it stopped raining, which is super good, and every matches are played on time now, which is a good thing. And the other thing I want to talk about is late finishes. I think this definitely has to do with obviously the rain, as I said before, because matches are forced to start later, where they are forced to stop in the middle and then return to it. Obviously it's going to be later because there's more matches to be played. And I think this French Open is a really interesting French Open so far. There has been a lot of sad moments for sure, but there has also been a lot of exciting moments, and to see some young people sort of rising up is a really cool thing to say, and I love that. And yeah, now let's just talk about the matches. I sort of break it down. Let's talk about the men's first, but I broke it down to the first round, the second round, the third round. When I'm recording this, it's actually the fourth round, but I'll talk about the fourth round next week. So today we'll be focusing on the first, the second, and the third round of the French Open. So to start off with the men's side, I want to talk about Stan Wawrinka versus Andy Murray first. I said before during my last episode that this is a highly anticipated match because both of these players are sort of like, I don't want to say old, but they're players that has been in the game for such a long time, and it's really lucky that they drew each other and they played an incredible match. I think I was really entertained just from the point of view of how both players have such like a long history at French Open, and honestly, Stan Wawrinka's one-handed backhand is a thing of beauty. It's so amazing, it's so beautiful, and it's just so cool to see players who are like so mastered, like who mastered one-handed backhand play. It's actually just incredible. It's so beautiful. And in the end, Stan actually won that match, but regardless, I think the outcome really didn't speak much to me. I just really enjoyed the process of them two playing, and I have most of these matches linked, which are the ones that I will talk about, but there's some that I just simply couldn't find a highlight, but I'm pretty sure if you guys like dig deeper, you will find it. So if you hear at any point of this podcast like a match that you're like really excited to find the highlights for, but it's not in my show notes, you can just go search it up, search their names, and be like French Open 2024 highlights. I promise that there will probably be something. But now let's talk about another first round match, and this one will be more sort of in depth, which is Alexander Zverev versus Rafael Nadal. So when I first saw this draw, as I said before during my last episode, I was totally surprised, but I guess that's just fate. And to be honest, I feel like what everyone said is that if anyone who drew Rafa in the first round would have lost, but it was like literally the number 4 player in the world, and he's just amazing. He's one of the contenders of the title, and I think Rafa did really good, and I think he really challenged Zverev, and I think this might not be his last Roland Garros. Well, in my opinion, I feel like he's preparing himself to play in Paris for Olympics, maybe to go for a gold medal, because I certainly think that from his level of playing at French Open especially, that he does have the ability to go and win a gold medal for Spain. And yeah, that's basically it. I think Zverev, in a way, he was challenged, and I think for him to beat Rafa on Philippe Chatrier, which is like the main court, and the first round is a really hard thing to do. But to be honest, I feel like the conditions, if it was outdoor and if it was like during the nighttime, if it was outdoor and it was not as humid because obviously it was raining, I think the conditions will favor Rafa more, just because Rafa rely a lot on his on his spin, which is his forehand, because he's a lefty. So when he plays a forehand, he has this special spin added to it, and the clay helps it to bounce a lot, and if the weather's dry, it helps it even more. So I feel like the condition really didn't necessarily favor Rafa. However, I feel like maybe during Paris, which is also like 2 or 3 months from now, it is also going to be played here. So I feel like because it's also red clay and the condition will probably be better, that maybe I think Rafa do have a chance of winning it. Okay, now let's move on to the second round. There are 3 matches that I wanted to talk about. The first one being Gael Monfils versus Lorenzo Musetti. So this match was incredible in a way because both players are such entertaining players. So let's talk about Lorenzo Musetti first. Musetti recently became a dad, and just his way of playing as well as his one-handed backhand is just amazing, and I feel like over the years, he slowly improved on his forehand as well. So I think both of these players are players who are really good at making shots. Like, they're capable of playing incredible shots, and they're also incredibly fast as well. And Gael Monfils, because obviously he's French, so that the whole crowd is behind him, and the whole atmosphere during this match was pretty great in my opinion. And I think, Musetti won in 3 straight sets, but I think the reason I want to talk about this match is just because both players are such incredible athletes. Like, they're sort of like physical conditions, like their ability to run really fast, to jump really high, their power is just incredible, and they're all really good at like feeling the game of tennis, if that makes sense. Like they're really good at feeling where the ball is, and they're really good at controlling and sort of knowing the game of tennis, in my opinion. So this is just, yeah, a really entertaining match. I have this linked as well. And then I want to talk about Casper Ruud versus Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. Such a long name, but I think this match, the reason I want to talk about it, not only was this a 5-setter, but I think because Casper is one of my picks to go into the final, I think he was overall just really challenged in this match because Alejandro is an incredible player, and he's one of those players who are willing to like fight for every ball. So I think it was just incredible, and I think the way Casper was challenged was through the first set tiebreak. I feel like sometimes he needs to up his mental game more, and for him to like win a tiebreak, especially like during a Grand Slam, is really good practice for him for later rounds. And even though the other 4 set scores aren't necessarily really close, I think Casper was challenged, and for him it is a good thing, and I'm not taking anything away from Alejandro. I think he played incredible, and I think he really rised up to the occasion. I seriously thought he had a chance of winning, but in the end there can obviously only be one winner, so that's that. And then I want to talk about Flavio Cobolli versus Holger Rune. So I just want to talk about the last set because this is also a 5-set match, and the deciding set was really close. The one thing that I just wasn't really like, okay, so the score was Holger won the first 2 sets 6-4, 6-3. So he needs one more set to win. However, Cobolli managed to come back with a score of 6-3, 6-3, and then during the tiebreak, Holger won with a score of 10-7. Yet the thing I just was like kind of weirded out about is that I feel like Holger really just needs to work on closing up a match because he's just 1 set away from winning, and I feel like from skill wise he is more like, he has the ability to make more shots and be more aggressive. It's just sometimes it's really hard, especially on a big stage, to close out a match. So I think that's something, in my opinion, he needs to work on. And during the 10-point tiebreak, Cobolli was actually up 5-0, and I think when I was on Twitter, I saw that everyone's feed was like, oh my gosh, Holger's going to go out again despite being so close to closing it up. And in my opinion, I was like, oh yeah, you're right. But then this was just like, I guess, an unnecessary scare because in the end he did manage to come out on top. Just the process of it was a bit scary for me, but yeah, that's that. Okay, now let's talk about the third round. The third round, in my opinion, had a lot of great matches, but I want to talk about Sebastian Korda versus Carlo Alcaraz first. So, Sebastian Korda is a really talented young American player, and when I first heard about his name, I believe it was like in 2023. I think it was during 2022 during the US Open, because it was in the US and everyone's like, my timeline on Twitter was about him, and just when I was going to US Open during Fan Week, I saw him play, and I just thought that he's like a really talented player, and I expected him to sort of perform better than he did. I think a lot of people were predicting him to go really far in 2022. Like in US Open, I think a lot of people were predicting him to go maybe potentially in the top 4. But I think he's just haven't been performing really well. He's been trailing off a bit the whole last year. And this year, I feel like for him to make the third round of a big Grand Slam is already a big improvement. Even though he lost to Carlos in like 3 straight sets, I feel like Carlos, obviously he's my basically champion pick. Like I think he will win this whole tournament. So honestly, it's not a big deal. I feel like they both played really well, and I think Carlos was tested, and despite his whole like taped up arm, I think he is able to play through it comfortably. And then I want to talk about Grigor Dimitrov versus Cecil Bergs. I did not manage to find a highlight for this, but honestly, I feel like Grigor in this tournament can potentially go really far, maybe to the semifinals, maybe to the finals, but I think he has the ability to go really far, and he was challenged. He dropped a set when he was up 2-0, and this match actually lasted really, really long. I think it like lasted until like almost around midnight, and that caused the next match to finish around 3, which I will talk about later. But it was just incredible. I can't find a highlight for this one, I don't know why, but I think Grigor, again, just I feel like a lot of one-handed backhand people in this tournament are rising up, such as Stan, even though he didn't go far, but I just admired his one-handed backhand. Musetti, Dimitrov, just a lot of players says one-handed backhand is like, I don't know, for me, because I am a two-handed backhand player, so it's just really incredible for me to see. Okay, I want to talk about Matteo Arnaldi versus Andrei Rublev. To me, I feel like Andrei was one of my picks to go really far, just because he had an amazing clay court, like pre-clay court tournaments before the French Open. Like, I'm pretty sure he won a title in Madrid, and he just played really well. And I think despite having like a long losing streak during like the hard court, like during Indian Wells, Miami, I feel like during clay he's just finding himself. So I predicted him to go really far, because I just felt that he gained the confidence, and normally when he loses in the quarterfinals, so I didn't expect him to lose this early, but he did. And again, he displayed some, I don't want to say, well, it was some questionable behavior, I think that's the right word. I think the behaviors were just sort of out of the ordinary, and I think he really needs to sort of seek help in a way. Like, I saw this on my timeline that he needs to sort of change his relationship, because I feel like he's just too hard on himself, and it will definitely sort of harm him in the long run. I won't speak too much about it, but if you guys click on my highlight, you'll see what I mean. And then I want to talk about Novak Djokovic versus Lorenzo Musetti, which is our last match on the men's side. So this match is actually the match that happened after the Grigor Dimitrov match, which lasted until 3:04 a.m. And I believe this is a record of the latest ever French Open match. But it was amazing, partly because I guess I just saw again how incredible Novak is, and normally I feel like this season I haven't seen that much of his incredibleness in a way, because I feel like during Grand Slams before, when Novak is up 2 sets, or like if he's down 2 sets even, I'm like literally not worried. Like, I know that Novak is going to come back. But during this tournament, like during this year, it's all a little bit different. I think he surprised a lot of people with, I feel like most people, with a lot of his just, I don't want to say random, but just some unexpected losses. But however, yesterday he, I guess, proved us, I don't want to say wrong, but he proved us that he is still Novak. He won the first set 7-5, lost the second in a tiebreak 6-8, lost the third set 2-6, so now he's down 1-2. However, he won the fourth set 6-3, and then now it's like the sunny set, right? And I thought that this was going to go on for a longer time. However, Djokovic simply just bageled him. He won with a score of 6-0 in the deciding set, and I was partly watching, partly not, because I had my chemistry homework, so I was doing my homework while like sort of watching. I saw that Djokovic was up 3-0. I was like, okay, we're done. But I didn't expect it to be a bagel, but I think that just shows two things. The first thing is how Novak's just like, he immediately steps up his game during situations like these. The other is that players such as Musetti, they definitely have to like sort of train their skills to be able to compete with Novak in the deciding set, because it is the set that basically matters the most. And even though you're able to sort of gain a lead on Novak, you always, even though you know that Novak is going to come back, you still have to be prepared and know how to handle it. Okay, that's all the men's side, and now we'll talk about the women's side. Okay, I have no idea why, but I don't have a lot of the matches. I think I just couldn't find the highlights of a lot of links with the matches, but If you guys want, you guys can I'm pretty sure if you guys search it up, you'll probably have it. But the first match I want to talk about in the first round is Eva Elise versus Carolina Garcia. So for me, this was a huge surprise, even though Carolina did manage to come out on top. The reason why I was so surprised is because Eva took a set off of Garcia on Garcia's home turf, which is France. And as you guys know, the French crowd is notoriously known as being really loud and just booing anyone who isn't French. And I think for you, she's just so young, and for her to have the mentality to ground herself is incredible. And I think I have that match linked. Yeah, if you guys want to check it out, it is in my show notes. I think Eva is incredible and she hit some amazing shots. So if you guys want to check that out, please do so. And then I have two other ones, which is Elena Svitolina versus Karolina Pliskova. So these two are players who they have a similar tone to Wawrinka versus Murray, which that both of these players are established players, but they aren't at their top level necessarily now because of injuries and their age. But I think this was an incredible match. I think both players really gave their all, and when Svitolina lost the first set, I was like, oh, I thought Carolina was gonna come out on top. But I think just from breakpoints conversion, where Svitolina converted 7 out of 13, whereas Pliskova only converted 5 out of 10, that really speaks a lot, and it showed the difference between the scoreline basically. And then I want to talk about Paula Badosa versus Katie Butler. In my opinion, I thought that Katie Butler was going to lose, but I didn't expect it to be this close. So I guess good job to Katie, because Badosa was the former world number 2, so I expected her to, because obviously she performed really well in her prior tournaments leading up. She's performing at a top level and she is capable of beating a seeded player. But for her to come back really showed, I guess, her mental strength, because, well, in my opinion, and from what I've been seeing, I feel like Badosa really isn't a mentally tough player. Not that it's wrong or anything, but I'm just saying that sometimes she really struggles with maintaining the score and keeping her lead. But for her to come back is incredible. Okay, that's that. And now I want to talk about the second round, because we have a lot of interesting matches. I have 5 matches I want to talk about. Some of them are going to be short, but this one's going to be long. So this one is Naomi Osaka versus Iga Świątek. Okay, let me tell you guys through my journey of this match. I was in, I believe, math class when it happened, and I saw that first of all, I begged my mom to stay home to watch this match, but my mom said no, so I went to school, and I saw that Naomi got broken in the first set. I was like, oh, okay. But then when I checked again, it was 5-all, I think, and I was like, wait a second, Naomi's actually playing really good. And our school, I can't really watch the match while in school, and I really couldn't access all social media platforms, so I can only see just the score line. And when occasionally when I check my phone on Twitter, I see that they were like, oh my gosh, this is the best match of the year, and I'm like, why am I missing this? And I was calling my mom throughout this, but Naomi lost the tiebreak 1-7 in the first set, and then I had class and I checked back later, she won that second set 6-1. I was like, what? Because okay, here's the thing with Iga. I feel like when a player plays Iga, it's normally a closer first set compared to a second set, because they really try a lot in the first set, and then in the second set, they still try, but just trails off. It's normally a big score difference, 1-6, 0-6, 2-6. But Naomi actually won that second set. So I was really confused. I was like, wait a second, Naomi won that second set, so there's a deciding set. And then I had another class, and we were just talking that whole class, but I was checking the score, and she was up 5-2, and my mom was like, she literally had a match point. She had a match point. And to be honest, after this match was over, what I thought was, I'm really proud of her, because I didn't expect her to go as far as she did, because me and my mom, when we saw the draw, I used to joke with her. I was like, okay, Naomi's gonna lose, it's gonna be really sad, but like she actually had a chance, and I feel like she tried so hard, and it's definitely a positive note. I feel like she's playing much better in clay than she's ever had, and we have the Paris Olympics, we have the US Open, which is basically her home court, and we have so much more things going on this season. So I think just her really challenging Iga in a way that Iga probably hasn't been challenged at all this season, on clay especially, during Roland Garros, is incredible, because I feel like Iga is going to win French Open this year again. But yeah, that's that. And then I want to talk about Sofia Kenin versus Carolina Garcia. I feel like Garcia has been performing well in the first half of the year. Not first half, but like the first part. But now I feel like she really hasn't been, because Sofia won pretty comfortably. And I just want to point this match out because Sofia, she's sort of struggling a lot with injuries herself. And for her to come back is really incredible. And for her to beat seeded players is also a really incredible thing. Okay, I now want to talk about the other match, which is Danielle Collins versus Olga Danilovic. So, okay, personally, I didn't expect her to lose, because I feel like everyone expected Danielle to maybe make it to the quarterfinals, to the semifinals, maybe even to the final, just because she's been performing so well for the past few tournaments. And even though she lost to the final against Madison Keys, but like she still went to the final of that tournament. And I think for her to lose was sort of unexpected, but I guess this just shows again how the WTA can just be so unpredictable. Honestly, both the men's and the women's side can be so unpredictable. And then I want to talk about Anna Kalinskaya versus Bianca Andreescu. So Bianca Andreescu sort of have a similar story to Sofia Kenin. Like Sofia won the Sofia won the Australian Open in 2020, and she injured herself, and soon she was like out of the rankings. And Bianca had a similar story. She won the US Open, I believe, in 2019, and just soon after that she had an injury, and she was really like fell out of her ranking by a lot. And I think both players are coming back, which is definitely a good thing, and they're challenging some already established players. For example, Sofia Kenin challenged Carolina Garcia, Bianca Andreescu challenged Anna Kalinskaya. So I believe Bianca actually lost the first set, and for her to come back is incredible, because I feel like Bianca is just the type of player who really needs more confidence in herself, because I think she's an incredible player, but she just needs to practice more. And I think for her to practice her coming back is incredible. I'm using the word incredible a lot, but it is incredible. And I want to talk about Peyton Stearns versus Daria Kasatkina. Guys, I literally called it, because if you guys are following my predictions, or if you guys listened to my last episode, I said that I feel like Peyton is going to go pretty deep in this tournament, and I think she had a chance of beating Daria Kasatkina, and I was right. She beat Daria, and it was actually like a pretty cruise, like it was easy. Like I'm pretty sure she beat her in like 2 straight sets. So yeah, that's basically round 3. Round 2. There's a lot of matches, and yeah, just a lot of stuff going on. But now I want to talk about round 3, and then we'll wrap up today's episode. So for round 3, I have 2 matches. The first one being Zheng Qinwen versus Yelena Avanesian. I can't find the highlights for this one, and the one I will talk about soon as well, but I think the reason I want to talk about this match is to talk about the issue of the French Open, which is it lacks a hawk eye. So basically during this match, what happened was a ball bounced. I'm not sure what score it was, but they were hitting the balls. A ball went out, and a ball went out, and Zheng Qinwen like pointed the mark to the referee, to the chair umpire, and the chair umpire said that it was in, where it was like clearly out, and they even showed it on the Hawkeye, and it was like clearly out, like by a lot. But not by a lot, but like you can see it's out. And the thing is, they don't get to see the Hawkeye at French Open. It just relies on a ball mark because they play because on clay you can see where the ball lands, and it creates a mark after it. So yeah, that's that. And I think this really messed Jintae-won up because she started crying and she like just lost the whole match after that. But to be honest, like it's not only the fault of not having this whole system. I think really even if it is a crucial point, you can't just let one misjudgment ruin your whole match. So yeah, I feel like she really needs to work on her mental fortitude as well. And then the last match I want to talk about is Emma Navarro versus Madison Keys. I had this match highlighted in my potential star matchup sheet, and I thought that Madison Keys was going to win because a week earlier she basically destroyed Danielle Collins, which is like one of the best players right now, and I like in a final too. So I thought that because it's both clay courts, I feel like she's going to perform really well. However, it was 2 tie breaks, which means that 2 of like all the sorry, what am I saying? But like the 2 of matches are like close. The 2 sets are close, but just in the end, I feel like I don't know. I think Emma just had a more. Maybe she doesn't have as much expectations on her because I feel like everyone expected Madison to win. So in the end, Emma did come out on top, and yeah, that's that. So I talked about a lot of matches, and I have a lot of them will be linked in my description if you guys want to go check it out. Again, if you haven't followed all my social medias, please do so. That is Instagram and Twitter using @TennisTravers. You can basically find me anywhere by using @TennisTravers. If you're listening on YouTube, comment, like, and subscribe. If you're listening on other streaming platforms, please rate my show. And yeah, that's basically next week. I will be talking about the winners, which is insane to me. I was thinking about doing it like daily, but then I just had too much schoolwork. But I might do it daily during Grand Slams if I have the time to do so. But yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.